The next item of business is a debate on motion number 6215 in the name of Robin Harper on democratic reform.
Rob Gibson.
Presiding Officer, I plead insanity. Some of the arguments that have to be made about the whole question of fairness need to be explored from the point of view of the proposition. That is the single transferable vote in multi-member seats. Therefore, in that circumstance, there is an open list. That means that reconnecting with the people and holding MSPs to account can take place in that system. You have a choice of candidates from particular parties. You don't need to vote for the ones that you don't like. So that means in multi-member seats with open lists, the question of people holding their MPs or MSPs to account is clear, or their councillor for that matter as well. Now, the additional member system which we have is more proportional in Germany because half of the members are elected by the constituencies and the other half by the lists. Whereas the Labour Party made sure in the arrangements for this Parliament that when we have 73 constituencies and 56 top-up members, that is less proportional. They didn't want proportionality in the full sense, and that's why their arguments about first past the post fall down. All the time, they've moved to try and keep things as being as undemocratic as they could. Now, the idea of British democracy, which is a contradiction in terms, is something which we have to take some advice from people down south. Now, Will Hutton, writing about this subject last Sunday in The Observer, said, above all, if fairness is a value that we care about, the voting system is an offence to any conception of fair political representation. A state that can collude in this degree of unfairness in its electoral system is unlikely to be especially fair itself. That's why the debate about allowing people to be elected by a fairer system is going to change that state fundamentally. In fact, I don't believe that once we do, that we will ever have the situation where majority government in the old form will ever take place again. Now, it's interesting to hear Lord Fowkes arguing for England to have a parliament of its own. Well, that's fine. Their set of priorities may mean a different range of candidates get elected. But what we have in Scotland here, in a four-party, five-party, six-party system, is something which is suitable to our needs. And it was of concern to me to hear the Labour Party and the Conservative Party maintain the argument that fairness was less important than majoritarianism. Now, the SNP has long taken the principled position that votes must be fair and represent the views of the people. We have been championing the importance of proportional voting systems for decades, and the only way to ensure that the public's opinion is put into practice is to ensure that we have the fairest system. That's why today's debate about STV in multi-member seats actually answers these questions for the first time. But as a Highlands and Islands member, I can remember back to the Kilbrandon Commission, where there was discussion about PR for Scotland, that there was some problem about very large seats with scattered populations. Well, it's possible to have a variety of solutions to that, rather than saying that the whole Highlands and Islands should be one seat. But the circumstances in which we are having this debate is set against a British system which has been so unfair that the majority of people, since ever elections were secret, have probably voted against the person who was elected. The person who was elected, I think, perhaps once or twice in the period that we're talking about in the last 100 years, had a party which actually, in the end, had a majority of the votes. That cannot be fair, and this debate has to move to multi-member seats and STV. I support the motion in Patrick Harvie's name, or sorry, in Robin Harper's name.